Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Thursday. I hope everybody had a fantastic week. And welcome to the Freedom Starts Now show. My name is Karen Theimer. I am your host. And yeah, where are you coming in from? Put in the comments where you're listening, if this is a replay that you're listening to. And feel free to subscribe on my YouTube. Sometimes I forget to mention that on here, but feel free to subscribe. And I'm trying to build my following here. And yeah, let me know if you're listening to this now or you're watching the replay. But freedom starts now. What does that mean to you when you think of freedom? I started this because one of the hats I wear, I'm a massage therapist and I'm a freedom facilitator. And I've been, there's a trend lately of people who are feeling stuck and are going through anxiety, just kind of having a hard time letting go of their past. But they're not sure how to let go and how to move forward because it's scary to move forward. I know because I was there when I turned 56 years ago, when life threw me a curveball and I became single. So, and it was like, oh my God, I got to sink or swim and figure this out. So, but what I'm learning is that freedom starts now. Why I started this, it's because it starts with making a decision, just making a decision to make a change. And not always we can figure this stuff out because we have these stories that are running through our head telling us don't do it, not good enough, whatever that is for you. I'm not that way, I'm not that kind of person, all that kind of stuff. So, but what I've learned over the years is that we can't figure this stuff out on our own. And sometimes we need to hire somebody. We need to invest, give ourselves permission to invest in ourselves. So freedom starts now means just make that decision to have a better life, to want a better life, to give yourself permission to enjoy, to laugh, to play, to bring out that inner child. So that's what freedom starts now means for me, and how I want to share that out there. And I started this show because I wanted to interview and introduce people out there to different types of healers, different types of coaches, people who have gone through their crap to get to where they are today, which is their awesomeness and how they're helping people. So I'm super excited to introduce my next guest, Lorree Appleby. And I'm going to bring her up here. Oops. Hey, Lorree, thank you for joining the show today. I'm so excited you are here. And I actually get this time with you because usually you and I were just like, hey, how you doing? Quick chat next. Because we have this life of making a difference in this world. So please, I'm going to give the mic to you. Introduce yourself. Give us a little bit about you. How did you go from, your mess to your awesomeness, and how you got to where you are today?
Thanks, Karen. It's great to be here, and I love the way what you think about freedom. It's I think it's a little different for everybody, and I think that's really important to find out what does freedom mean to you, and it's not the same for all of us. And for myself, it was really about connecting to who I really was, the real me, the real person I was, because I had a tendency to change myself to be who I thought other people wanted me to be, so I could keep the peace, so I could, everything could be status quo, and that's really stemmed from childhood, being a people pleaser, and then eventually it was codependent relationships, and in all of that, I lost myself. I really didn't know who I was, other than looking outside of myself. So that was not freedom for me. And in doing the healing work, which I got led to doing that because life transitions and changes, and quote unquote bad things happen in life to get us to go deep, and to go deep into our feelings and into who we really are and what we really want. And those kind of things did happen to me: different car accidents, deaths, transitions, work,
Hmm.
relationship breakdowns with close family members, things like that. And all of those things, at first I was always thinking, poor me and why me and this isn't fair and life isn't fair and I'm not a bad person and why do bad things always happen to me and wah, you know, we all do it and we've all had our pity parties and there's no shame in that, although, you know, some people might say there is, but I think that just when you look, if you're saying those things to yourself like I was, that's a really good indication that you're not free and you're not happy probably. And for me, you know, I had to have quite a few of those things happen to me, and then health, my body started failing, and I had to just look like, who's the common denominator here? It's me. So
Yeah.
who has the control to change it? Me. And I always thinking if they changed, I would be okay. If the job changed, I would be okay. If the situation changed, I would be okay. I always was putting it outside of myself, which is so very common, and not looking within.
Mhm.
Then when I started to look within, what happened to me and what happens to a lot of people, especially those overgiving, very busy, heart-centered, always there for people kind of people, uh, the people pleasers, the peacekeepers, we end up not being able to, when we own that it's we're the common denominator, we turn on ourselves. That's what I did. I turned on myself. And
Mhm.
then it was guilt and shame and blame and you know, that would raise my anxiety and my depression would set in. And you know, so it's a journey. It's like definitely that kind of journey. So it, for me, it was forgiveness. That is really what cracked me open and helped me to see that life is happening for me, not to me. And if I choose to shift my perspective, I get to choose. I can choose that I can say, poor me, or I can choose to say, hey, maybe there's something going on here that is prompting me to look at this differently, to make a different choice. And that's really how I started to heal and change the way I was, you know, being outer focused to turning and becoming more inner focused. And then my healing journey really started. And I started with the personal development and the mental kind of thing, you know, and then I got led into the spirituality when I got connected with radical forgiveness. And when I got connected with radical forgiveness, which, if nobody is aware of what radical forgiveness is, it's been around since the mid 90s. It was created by my mentor and friend, Colin Tipping, who is now passed a couple of years now. And when I learned that my soul's journey, and that I actually came here to have this kind of experience, and there was actually some purpose to it, and that I had control over it if I just chose to shift my perspective. It all made sense, and then I had like this uh, process, this playbook, this how I can work my way out of it, how I can undo all of these patterns and coping mechanisms and ancestral patterns of, you know, giving up who I was to feel safe in the world, right? Because I didn't feel safe being myself. And then I didn't even know who I was. So it's been a long journey and I am still on it. You know, I'm very pretty transparent about things because it doesn't end. Forgiveness isn't a one and done thing. It is a practice because you are looking at the ego, right? And our ego can be very, very strong. And my ego had a lot of judgment around others. And then it started to be about judging myself. So now what I do choose to do is I take when I ego judges or I have all these expectations that aren't being met, I make the choice to make a decision to look at it as, what is this teaching me? And you know,
Mhm.
I think we've heard that before, what is this teaching me? But really and truly, I look at it as an opportunity rather as something bad that happened, and I don't have to say the why me, poor me anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a journey, and I really, when I learned this, I and it changed so much for me. And I was starting to able to heal those codependent relationships in my life, I decided to become a radical forgiveness coach. So I took a really big leap of faith and went to Atlanta and trained for 10 days with people I didn't even know. And that's really when everything just changed for me. My heart started to open. And
Mm,
I had so many walls of protection, and layers of it because I did not feel safe in my body. I didn't feel safe to be myself. And they just started falling away. The more of the work I did around looking at my ego and seeing how my ego is trying to keep me safe and trying to keep me in status quo and in the same patterns and the relationships, then I could start to have some compassion for myself and understand that I was operating from the wounded, inner child, so to speak, right? And
yes.
and my early journey, it wasn't that safe, and I don't have a lot of memories of it. So, this is very common for people, and there is an opportunity to find freedom. And for me and so many other people and my clients, it's through forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it's not forgiveness is not what people think it is. There's a lot of myths around that. So I'll leave it there and we can chat more about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But that's, my journey, or like in a kind of a short version.
Well, thank you for sharing that because, I've been on this journey of healing since 2018. So what is that? 5, 6 years? I don't know, whatever the math is on that, right? And
Yeah.
and it's funny you're bringing this all up now because I'm going to a ceremony this weekend, and
Awesome.
a lot that's coming up for me, and it's like your adult self says, "Oh, I'm good. I trust. I'm safe. I'm good. I got a roof over my head." But it's that inner child that
Mhm.
goes, are you sure about that? So let's create patterns here for you that will keep you safe, right?
Mhm.
I know the last time I went to a ceremony, and it was deep, and it brought me back to a time in my life as a child that I wasn't comfortable in, right? I know it's
Mhm.
time to heal that, and there's a forgiveness, right? So,
Mhm.
but it brought up feelings. I'm like, I don't like this feeling. I want to get out of it. Like I was doing everything in my power to get out of this feeling instead of, as you taught me a long time ago, just be in the feeling. And it's
Mm.
okay,
Yeah.
right? So it really
Yeah.
is okay to be in whatever emotion that comes up. And
Mm.
where I was going with that is that, so since then, that was a couple of months ago. Since then, I've been really working. Okay, if I want to change the programming, work on forgiveness of myself and my past, that I need to, work on the forgiveness, and I need to trust, right? Like it's about
Mm.
trusting. It's about
Yeah.
trusting the process, trusting that you are safe, teaching that little you that you're safe now. You're not that person. You're not that kid that got, abused, trauma, whatever that was for you, who's ever watching, and to know that you're safe and that it's okay to be vulnerable and show the
Yeah.
emotions, right? So that's sort of where I'm
Yeah.
at. It's like I've been working on. So every day, I've learned that I'm not alone because I always felt like I was alone, even though I have lots of amazing friends around me. And I know I can reach out to people saying, "Hey, I'm stuck," but I still felt alone.
Yeah.
So and then I was taught that, well, call on your angels, right? So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm going to start listening to what people are telling me because I hear it all over the place, your higher guides, your spirit guides and all that, because I'm learning a bit more about spirituality as well. So one day, and I'll share this quickly, and then one day I was out for a walk and I was like, okay, I'm taught I'm not alone. I'm taught that people have told me you're not alone, call on your guides and all that. So I'm like, okay, angels, spirit guides, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I need some help. I need some help. Guide me in a way, and I love this for me, guide me in a way that I will recognize and show me trust. Right. So
Mm.
I get home, and I don't know, I might have shared this on the last show, but I come home and I happened to look at my phone and there was a notification from YouTube. Somebody I don't even know. I'm not even following the person. It says, and the notification was on a meditation, what was it? Getting connected to your spirit guides and how to build trust, something along that line. I was like, holy,
Nice.
you can't make up that stuff. Well, I guess I probably could make it up, but I'm not making it up. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is so cool. Oh, you know what? I'll do it later. Oh,
Yeah.
later, later, later. Because that's how I grew up with, right? My dad love my dad, may he rest in peace. But there was a lot of lessons there. But he, every time you went to him for help or anything, everything was later, 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 and later never came. So then I was
Yeah.
like, I sit my butt down and I'm like, okay, Karen, what else do you got going? Do you got some important phone call you got to be on? Do you have clients, this and that? I was like, just sit your butt down. You're going to do the meditation. You ask for help. Now you're
Yeah.
receiving it. So let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's work on this trust. So I did. Oh my God, it was the best thing ever. So,
Nice.
it's
Yeah.
just, it's important to start paying attention, or if you want help, just ask. And, but in a
Yeah.
way that you recognize. And then you introduced me to the Radical Forgiveness book. And that was
Mm.
freaking amazing. Like I'm ready to come back to the book because I feel like that's a lot. And just because we think we've forgiven one thing, there's probably a million other things underneath that that needs to be, needs to work on that. Well, maybe not need, but it's
Yeah.
important to work on that. And it is a forever,
Yeah.
I think. So,
Yeah, it's a journey for forgiveness, and it's for me traditional forgiveness never worked. It
mhm.
it was the radical forgiveness that worked because it honored my humanness. And it also gave me the perspective to looking at it from the micro perspective of my humanness and my ego, my small self, and then the macro perspective, my higher self, my bigger self, the zoomed out view, the bigger picture view. So with radical forgiveness, it's like we like to say, it's like looking at life through two lenses at the same time. You start with the ego self, the lower self, and then you look at it from the other bigger picture self. Because a lot of times when people get into the spirituality and it's all love and light and everything, and what they do is they like to, and this is another ego trick that it does, is we'll jump over the feelings and get to the happy ending of everything's perfect, it's all meant to be, it's all good, I'm fine, everything's good, I'm just going to send all my feelings down to Mother Earth. But we have to feel the feelings. That's
Mhm.
a big part of why we're
So
here, is
that.
to live as free will beings, right? Doing it our way, because we forget where we came from, and we only start to remember when we start to awaken. And then it's about feeling all of it. Colin used to teach us, the only negative feeling is the feeling you don't allow yourself to have. And
Mhm.
we are not taught how to feel. We're actually conditioned that it's not okay to feel because it makes other people uncomfortable. And I personally am a very big feeler, and I squashed it down. I squashed it down so hard because I would be told, "You're weak. You're a crybaby. Be quiet, or I'll give you something to cry about. Shut up, or I'll give whatever." All the things. And people would, "Oh, don't cry. It's okay. It's okay." Why can't we shift that narrative and just hold space for someone to cry, for instance, or be mad, for instance, or be sad or grieve? Whatever the feeling is that we're having, holding space for ourselves to, like you said, just to be with that feeling, because this too shall pass, right? It's when we avoid the feelings and we push them away, we deny them, we defend them, we deflect them, and we distract from them, right? We numb out, or we watch Netflix and chill, or all the scroll on social media, you know numb out with shopping or drugs or alcohol. There's so many ways. And I'm not saying these are bad things, but when we find that you're doing it because you're avoiding a feeling or you're distracting yourself, that's a sign that there's some inner work to do. And with
Yeah.
the radical forgiveness, it just takes you through that process. So you just have to trust the process and you go through it. And it honors the ego piece and the inner child piece. And then it honors the feelings, and it helps you to own your feelings, right? How many
Mhm.
people have said, "You made me mad, you made me sad, it's your fault"? Nobody can make you be anything. It's how we personally see our reflection of the situation. Right
Yeah.
now, of course, if something bad happens, like, I mean, bad in the sense that someone yells and screams at us, or does something terrible, of course we're going to have feelings. I'm not saying that those feelings aren't right, but we it's important that, especially in relationships, to own our feelings, because they
Mhm.
are a direct reflection of how we see it. And that was huge for me. Huge, huge, huge. Because if I own my feelings, I have the power to change
Yeah.
them. But if someone
Yeah.
else made me feel a certain way, then I have no power, because they have the power. So that's the freedom in radical forgiveness, is
Mm,
that when we take ownership and stop looking at ourselves as a victim, we honor the victim piece because that is that wounded part of us that we're healing. But then we're able to collapse that, all those stories, all those beliefs, all those interpretations that we've told ourselves, that grows and grows and grows. And the ego loves to make up stories because it wants to reconcile why things happen, right? It wants to get us back into alignment with the programs that are living in our subconscious and our unconscious, right?
mhm.
That's why we have these great ideas like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And we have all these great, we're so excited. And then a little bit of time passed, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's a day, and then all of a sudden these little things come up. Oh, you can't do it because of this, and oh, that, and that, and then all of a sudden we have all these reasons why we can't do it. But it was an amazing idea yesterday or earlier. But now our ego checked with our subconscious and said, we don't do this. Like, we
Yeah.
don't say it's standing on a stage speaking in front of 50 people and you've never done it before. Okay, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna grow and I'm gonna be able to get my message out. And then your ego checks, right? It checks the filter. Do we do stuff like this? And there's like, no, we don't. That's too risky. Do not get up on a
It's
stage.
scary.
No, and then all your childhood, oh my gosh, you could be rejected. People could disagree. They could walk out. All the catastrophizing comes up. And then we say no to not doing things. So really it's about leaning into that uncomfortableness and working through whatever comes up and then doing the thing that we're scared to do. So if we're holding on to these, I'm not good enough, I have like having low self-esteem and people pleasing and codependency and having harboring a lot of resentment and anger, if you have all those things, it's not going to be very easy for you to shine and be who you really are authentically, because
Yes.
you're basically we have all these masks, or we're fitting in a box, however you want to call it. And that's where the forgiveness piece, it's really looking at those aspects of ourself that we judge in other people, because we really actually judge those in ourselves, right? So it's the inner work is the work to do so that we can really show up as who we truly are. And then when we can show up as who we truly are and authentically be ourselves, we are free. We are free and we shine. And then other people, they resonate with that. And some people might be triggered because they are not doing the thing. So that's a normal thing.
Yeah.
But we can shine and show up and be who we really are and help other people. That actually helps other people
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
telling them what to do or making, just being that change that you want to see, right? I used to always think everyone else needed to change, but no, I
Yeah. Me
change
too.
and that's how other people change.
It's so true because I used to be, like the same, the people pleaser. I didn't want to get into arguments with people and stuff. And I always thought, well, if they changed, then that will make, well, that was me in my marriage, right? Like if
Yeah.
only my husband at the time, would do X, Y, Z, then it would make my life better, right?
Yeah.
What I didn't realize at that time was that that was me. Like I'm judging me because I'm not doing the thing, right?
Yeah. It's
And
always us.
it's
It
always,
always comes back to us, and I don't mean that in a bad way, like, I wanna
oh,
make sure that the viewers understand that. It's the point is that it's always us, in that if we're triggered by something or we're upset by something, that's an indication that there's an opportunity to heal,
yeah.
right? But so that's when I say when it's always us. So when we point that finger out there, ask yourself, as you notice your judgments, don't have to beat yourself up about, oh, I'm judging again. I'm such a bad person. Oh my God, it's all my stuff, blah, blah, blah. Because I did that. I totally went down that road of like, oh my God, look at me judging. I'm like such a terrible person and I'm supposed to be a coach and all. But
You're
it's
still a
that
human being.
right. We're still human. Just because we're in this healing role or this role doesn't mean we got it all together. And I did have people in my life say, "Oh, you're supposed to be this and that." And look at you. You're having your feelings. Like, yeah, because I'm human and I actually learned how to allow myself to have my feelings. And now I don't like it, but I know that it's going to move through me and release and I feel better after.
Yeah.
So those feelings teach me something, right? They teach me something. And then also the energy moves out of my body rather than staying in. And when that energy stays stuck in our body, that emotional pain, and it just keeps getting worse, it just gets denser and denser. And then it comes out as disease, as aches and pains, as, there's so many things, so many ways that we can, um, this dense emotional trauma or pain that hasn't been processed. And that's why the feelings is so important, because it helps us to process,
Yeah.
right?
And I
And
know,
I do agree with you, working with someone really helps, because it is so easy to say, oh no, I'm not going to do that, right? Because
yeah,
our ego is strong and it knows all of our things. So it's going to give you something that you're going to go, oh, okay, yeah, I don't really need to do that. But
yeah,
when you have someone holding you there and holding the space, but also asking those difficult questions, and you commit to yourself, okay, I'm going to be honest with myself, right? And I'm going to be compassionate with myself, and I'm going to be curious, right?
yeah,
Because curiosity brings that lightness into it. And when we're curious, we can't be in judgment if we're curious, right? We're just
right.
like, oh, I wonder what's going on here, So I like to bring that energy in as well. So
Yeah,
all of these things help us to process the emotional pain, and then we can allow the parts of us, like we're actually going to, our ego will allow it, because we've processed it, right? And it becomes a little quieter and a little quieter if you give it the attention it's looking for.
yeah. And it's
Yeah.
important, and you bring up around being honest with yourself.
Mm.
And it's funny because I'm like, oh, I'm honest with myself, but until I realize I'm not honest with myself, right?
Nope.
And then so there, I wanted to take NLP. I've resisted taking NLP for like ages, right? And finally one day I was like, okay, I want to take my coaching business to the next level, and just have more tools to help my clients and stuff. And finally I was just like, and this has probably been going on for 5 years now. And one day I'm in the shower, and best place to think things out is in the shower, in the washroom, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
funny, or out in nature. But and finally I'm like, okay, Karen, let's be honest. Like, let's be 100% honest and just say what's on your mind. Because you're safe, and it's okay. You're not going to be in trouble, because there's, you always think of like, you're going to be in trouble because that's what happened when you were a kid, when you were honest. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, what's up? Okay, I don't want to spend the money. I don't have the money. How am I going to get the money? What happens if I'm not, they're not good enough? Most of it was around money, right? And then I was like, okay, Karen, let's think this through here, right? I love having conversations with myself. It's awesome. And I'm like, let's think this through. What is it costing you and your clients by not doing it, by not investing in it? Figure out the how later, but what is it costing you by not doing this? I'm like, this is costing me so much more money by not, and time and energy and all that kind of stuff, by not doing it. So just do it and figure out the rest later, right? It always works out in the
Yeah.
long run, right? If you just allow it and be honest with it. And as you say, go through the emotion of it. So then all of a sudden I'm like, that's it. I'm
Yeah.
going to do it. I'll figure it out later. Right. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just,
Absolutely.
we have to be so, so honest, and it's okay.
Mhm.
I'm learning that more and more. If something's going on in my life, let's be honest with you. Like, maybe even exercising. No, I don't
Mm.
want to exercise today because I don't love it, and it's okay. But what ends up happening after I get through all that, and it's like, okay, I end up going home and I end up exercising, right? Because I
Yeah.
took that, I got rid of that feeling or thoughts or whatever it is, like being honest about how I feel, and then just do it. And then you feel, then afterwards you're like, man, that was easy. That was great. I feel awesome now. Right.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
it's so interesting, this whole thing. So I have a question
Mhm.
around ego.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I'll talk to people about ego, and ego has that, um, what's the word I'm thinking of? Where people think, oh, I don't have an ego. Like, ego is like that, I don't know, I guess
Mm.
masculine, that I'm
Mm.
better than you, whatever the word is I'm thinking about, kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
Let's talk ego a bit, because a lot of people, I think, have a misconception of what the word ego, what ego is. So
Right.
if you want to elaborate on that, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, of
That
course.
makes sense.
Yeah, so like I'm gonna talk about it from how I learned it in my training, and our ego is very important, and we need it. First of all, it's giving us an experience of separation, right? And the way I see it and the way I've learned it is that, we are here to have a whole myriad of experiences, and a big part of it is having experience of separation. So we often feel separate and alone, and there's so many different ways that we feel separate and alone and unsafe. And our ego is the it's our subconscious, and it tells us, it wants to keep things status quo. It thinks everything is about us, right? It's not about other people. So it's very egocentric, right? It's very centered, like, around self, right? It doesn't think about other people, it thinks about self. It's always looking for the next satisfaction, right? It's not able to just be at peace within the now. It's in the past, or it's in the future. It's not in the now.
Mm,
So the ego will it works from our subconscious programming, and its main role is to keep us safe and keep us status quo. And what the ego often does is it sabotage. Will sabotage ourselves. And when we sabotage ourselves, it could be in so many different ways. Often it's unconscious or subconscious. We don't even realize that's what we're doing.
yeah.
But when we have the excuses, when we, like you said, say, I don't want to work out. I don't feel like it. Like, I'm being honest with myself. So because that's an ego trap right there. I'm being honest with myself. I don't want to do it, so I'm not going to do it. But really, that's an ego trap right there, because we want to take it to the next step. Okay, I don't want to, but if I don't, what's going to happen if I make this choice that I don't want to? Because, ego say, oh, you don't need to. You should go and relax. You deserve it. You worked so hard this week. You already worked out. You're good, right? How the voice goes, right? You
Yeah.
deserve it. As soon as you hear that, you deserve it.
It's like,
I,
yeah, I
I
got
sorry, I
it.
have to laugh because I do laugh at my ego or with my ego, because it's like, I want
Project.
you rather, because before I would get mad at it, like, oh yeah, and that didn't work. So now I work with it as an ally, because I know that it has a role, and the role, like I said, is to keep us safe, to keep us status quo. And the ego really is only looking for the next, it's only looking for the next thing so it can stay nice and comfortable. The ego does not want to be uncomfortable at all.
Yeah. But it also
And
gets stuff done, right? Like it's like
yeah,
here, it's also gonna get that
it can motivate you,
motivate.
absolutely. So so that's the thing, is there's a balance, right? It's not always a bad thing. Like, I've heard there's some school of thought out there of death, the ego death, and death to the ego. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that personally, because I feel that it has its place. Like, it can motivate you. It's just like guilt's, it can, if you have too much of it, it's going to, take over. But if guilt is also going to keep you be authentic and keep you honest, because you have it's your conscience, right? So ego's the same thing. It's going to motivate you, like, oh, I said I was going to do this, and I don't want to look bad to that person, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure I do it. So it keeps us accountable and what. But it also is very tricky, and it can very easily make up excuses so that we don't do the thing we really wanted to do. So if our goal is that, that's why it's really important to know what your values are, know what your goals are in life, like what is it that you really want, and to not make too many, because ego will jump in there and say, oh yeah, we got all these goals, right? I'm gonna lose 50 pounds, and I'm gonna speak on a stage, and I'm gonna, declutter my entire house, and I'm gonna, get it, like, all the things, and it'll
Are
make a
you
big
in my
list.
head right now?
No, I know this because I've done it.
I
And I
know.
got a big list. And then what happens is I get like two things done. And then what do we focus on? Ego focuses on all the things you didn't get done. And then
Yeah.
it's like, I suck. I'm no
Yeah.
good.
I'm
Right.
not good enough. I can't do
And
this. Forget it. Yeah.
Yeah, so ego's good. It's good, and then but you got to keep it in check. So that's what
Yeah.
I do. I keep it in check. So I hear it. Yes, I would love in a perfect world. Yes, I would love to do those 10 things on my to-do list. But am I going to get all those 10 things done? I don't know. I'm going to give it my best, but life happens, and I only have so much energy, and it's not always about checking off the to-do list. It's also there's other things that I need to do. For me, it's self-care and just quiet time and reflection time. I need those other things to balance me out of the doing, right? Is the being. So ego will look at, oh, you didn't do all those things, but your self-loving self, your higher self, there's different selves that we have. It will focus on, but look what you did do. Let's focus on what you did get done.
Yeah.
And then you can prioritize things like what is really most important, because ego will tell you everything's important,
Yeah.
but you got to dig deep into what is most important. And I do find that if you, for anyone that's watching and wants to go, well, how do I do that? Ask yourself, if I found out like I only had a year to live or a month to live or whatever it is, right? If you knew your time was limited, because our time is limited here, like we don't know when we're gonna transition on to the next. We
Yeah.
have no idea. We assume we're gonna like live till old age, but anything can happen.
Yeah.
And when you live in the with the idea that living for the moment, you're living to die. You're living to die. You're not dying to live, right? So you're
Yeah.
living in the moment. You're living your fullest self. And this is a practice. Not saying I have it all fully figured out and I do it perfectly, but I'm sharing the wisdom that I've learned, and this is what I work on, right? So what is most important? What do I absolutely cherish in life? What is that? What if I
Mhm.
could do anything I wanted to do and there was no limits? What would I be doing? And if it's like, oh yeah, I want to like travel the world and something, okay, maybe that's not doable right now, but maybe there's something you can do in the meantime to get towards the thing. So figuring out what it is that what's most important. Is it, and oftentimes we often think everything else is important and we forget about ourselves. So for me, it's the most important thing I know is that if I don't take care of myself, if I don't take care of my body, if I don't, mind, body, spirit, I am no good to anybody. I can't do my job because I can't hold space for people. I will be miserable. That is number one. So for me, that's number one.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it was not that way for me. Everyone
Yeah.
else was more important. Oh, it's my family. Oh, it's my job. Oh, it's, whatever. But I realized that if I'm not good, then I cannot give, I cannot receive, I cannot help anyone else, because I know that's my number one. So do I need to, I don't want to exercise? No, I don't. It's good. Funny you said that because I struggle with that, but I'm
Yeah.
aware, right? So when you're starting to shift from the ego, being really an ego, when you're starting to work with your ego as an ally, in the beginning, you're probably going to still have those same little things that happen, but now you're doing it from a place of awareness. And
Yeah.
that's huge. And you might do that from a place of awareness for a long time, but you're aware. And one day you're going to say, you know what? I don't want to do it that way anymore. I think I want to make a change. But
Yeah.
if you're not aware you're doing something that's not serving you,
Yeah.
how can you make a change, right? So being observant and being aware of yourself in your patterns, in your ego patterns of sabotaging yourself. I don't want to work out. I'd rather just, watch
On the
TV
couch.
or sit on the couch or get on the phone with my friend and whatever it is, avoiding
Yeah.
the exercise. Find ways to get your exercise in and make it more fun. And obviously there's something with your exercise and it's not very fun and inviting, so there's ways we go around it. But when we work with the ego and we know, okay, I don't want to exercise, but I know that it's the best thing for me because of my values and what's most important to me. If we can always refer back to that of what's most important, then you have like a bit of a roadmap. And then
Yeah.
you can say to your ego, okay, I don't really feel like it, but I know I'll feel better after. So I'm going to commit to doing 15 minutes. That's what
Yeah.
I'll say. I'll commit to do that. And then I'm into it. I'm doing it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can keep going. But my ego, if I'm saying I'm going to work out for an hour, my ego's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Good luck
no,
with that.
right? So
Exactly.
I play little games with my ego. It's like, okay,
You
I'm just
have
going to do
to.
it
You
for a
have
little
to.
bit. Yeah, and it's also about being consistent, right? Because the more consistent we are, then the ego gets used to it, right?
Yeah.
It allows it. It's not going to fight you so hard. It's not going to resist you. But I would say, if you're getting a lot of resistance, oftentimes for me, when something comes to me, this isn't so everyone's different, but for me, when I get a big no, like really quickly, I know that there's something there. When I get a huge resistance and a big no from my ego, I'm like, oh. And then I get all these excuses, things, why I should not do that thing, or that thing's not for me. But something led me to that. My intuition led me towards it. But then I get, no, that's not good. Da, 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 da. And all these judgments come. I'm like, uh-oh, I know that. I know that pattern. My
Yeah.
ego is trying to keep me safe. And that thing, and I only realized this because I've watched myself go through this several
Mhm.
times. And then I realized, ooh, because I used to listen to that big no. I got to know it's no. And then I would
Yeah.
just not do it. But then I realized, oh, my ego does the big no. And then it gives me a whole bunch of reasons why not. So then I just go into whatever the thing is with curiosity. Okay, well, I'm just going to see because something's telling me that I need to go down this path and look. And I tell you, the times when I've listened, like it was the best thing I could have done for myself.
Yeah.
But it was a change. It was something that was supporting me in a change that was for the highest and best good for me as when I look back on it. But the ego
Yeah.
doesn't want change, right? It does not want to change. It
Yeah.
fights it. So hopefully that's some ego stuff you kids can hear about your ego. And I do a lot more like teaching around that with the Radical Forgiveness, Self-Forgiveness book. And we learn about the ego and our I am self and our higher self and all the other lost selves and our wounded self and our inferred self, the self we think other people want to see. So there's a whole different bunch of parts of us inside, and it can get like kind of noisy in there, and
Yeah.
the loudest ones take over. So it's once you get to learn the different parts of yourself, then you can address it in a way where you have an understanding, and
Mhm.
you're going to get further, definitely. And that's how we integrate the ego. Otherwise it just takes over and it's not
And then
fun.
and then you never get anything done, right? Like,
Not really. And then
you
you
live
spin
in
your
misery.
wheels.
Yeah, and
Yeah, you spin your
yeah.
wheels, you sabotage, and then you turn on yourself or you turn on someone else, and just become small and safe. And I know that feeling because that was me, like
Yeah.
most of my life,
Yeah.
safe and small. Like,
Yeah. And I always
yeah,
lashed out at people. Like all of a
right.
sudden I would just get so frustrated and I just lose it. And
Yeah,
sometimes like if I've lost it on a family member, because family will always trigger you. You can love your
yeah.
family, but they will be your biggest teachers, that's for sure.
They
But
are. Yeah,
and sometimes I've lashed out and it's like, oh, gee, Karen, I
yeah.
think I need to deal with this anger a little bit, right? So then I have to take
Right?
it, then step away, think about it, and then go,
Mhm.
okay, what was this actually really about, right? But
Yeah,
until you go down this path, but you need to start somewhere to learn awareness of your
yeah.
behavior, of your thoughts, of how to control this. Like sometimes my mind goes on a hell of a journey, and I'm just like,
Mm,
just shut up, like enough already, right? And
mm.
then I have to
Yeah.
change that,
Yeah,
right?
so that's what happens when we follow our thoughts, right? Like you get a
Right.
thought and then it takes you to the next thought and then next thing you know, like, how
Another
did I
journey,
get there? And I'm like,
right?
oh. So it's, even just so with the thoughts, I just observe them. I really just now observe them rather
Yes.
than following them. I just, oh, okay, thinking that. Oh, okay, I'm thinking that. And is that true? And then I question it. Is that really true though? Or is that just, ego? Oh, lost you. Mhm. Oh, I think we lost Karen. Well, hi everyone. I think we lost Karen. I think we're almost wrapping up anyhow. And if you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website. It's
I'm back again.
ourpurposefuljourney.com. I was just like, okay, I guess I'm just going to sign off.
I don't know what happened there. Very strange.
Yeah, your internet has been like a bit in and out. Like your face gets fuzzy once in a while. So I think your
Oh,
signal's not quite strong. That's probably what
okay.
happened.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you took over. Thank you for
Well,
holding.
I kind of you got a minute of silence, but it's all good.
Well, okay.
Nothing
Well,
wrong with silence. Nothing wrong with maybe people it gives people time to like just absorb because we were sharing a lot of information and it can get overwhelming. So like I
yeah,
think it's probably good to just like, give people some simple practices that they can
yeah,
start with because it is a journey. It's not a one and done thing. Healing, forgiveness, shadow work, all of it, it's a journey and we're on our purposeful journey. That's why I named my business that because it's purposeful and when we can, enjoy the ride and embrace all the stuff that comes up and just create some simple practices for ourselves, that's not an ego, right? And when we create those practices and just stay consistent, we will start to see shifts and changes, right? And each time we shift and change, we become more free, right? More free from the
yeah,
shackles that, in the mind, like you were just before you got cut out, you were saying your mind is always, how do you shut it off and how do you stop it? I observe.
yeah,
I just observe it, and then I question it. I don't know if that's true, and and then I think, but and then I will. What I love to do is flip it on its head. So whatever I'm thinking,
yeah,
I flip it and I go to the opposite. And
yeah,
oftentimes that opposite is what the truth is. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I highly recommend your game. I don't know if when I got cut out there, if you mentioned your game at all.
No, I
Um,
didn't. No.
but just tell us shortly a little bit about your game because that game is. Are we still here? Are we frozen?
Yeah, I'm here.
Am I frozen or am I here? I'm
No,
good.
you're here.
Okay,
You're there.
because
Yeah.
I keep seeing the screen. So just tell us, quickly about this game, and then how can people reach out to you? And yeah, and I highly recommend reaching out to Lorree because she's amazing.
Thanks. Thanks so
So yeah,
much.
tell us about the game because it's helped
Yeah.
me out a lot. Your game.
Oh,
So
good. Awesome.
um,
It's a good
and
game
it's fun.
to work on the ego. So it's called the Soul Adventure Journey to the Real Me game. It's behind me there. I don't know if you can really see it. And it's a system, it's a process, and there's 3 decks of cards, oracle cards. One deck is affirmations, the second deck is the chakras, our energy centers, and then the third deck is different energies, mindfulness, creating energy, and healing energy. And what it is that it helps us to listen to our intuition, trust it, um, flip the negative self-talk into positive self-talk to the truth of who we are. And it also helps us to focus on ourselves every single day with a powerful mantra. So you pull a card from each deck and you create this powerful mantra that is from your energy, from pulling the cards, and also from your intuition. And in doing that, you just focus on that every day. So it builds consistency. And when we build consistency, we build new, positive, healthy habits. So I saw when I was working with people that the forgiveness work, the healing work, it can get really heavy because when we're doing this kind of work, it can get pretty heavy. Like I said, you can easily turn on yourself. And I knew that I needed something to balance that out. So with the Soul Adventure game, you're playing this game that brings in your inner child, and it's the truth of who you are, and it gives you something to focus on. So when you have those moments throughout the day, you can go back to what cards you pulled and what your message was, and just take a breath, and it really helps us to aspire to be who we truly are, want to be. The journey, it's the journey to the real me, right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's
It
very
helps
cool.
you
I
to,
highly
yeah,
sorry, go.
it really helps you to learn about yourself and about your body and about your energy, and you start to see patterns, and it can go actually very deep, and people can, really decode what their patterns are just by tracking their cards, which is all part of it. So, you can find out more about the game. I don't want to go too long into it, but if you go to my website, ourpurposefuljourney.com, you'll see a tab, Soul Adventure Game, and you can learn more about it there. You can learn more about me there. It'll take you to the game site if you click into it. But you know, reach out to me if anyone wants to have a clarity call, or take a look at my site. I have various, offerings, many things that are really reasonably priced, because I know that when we are doing all this work, like, money can really come up for people, and I don't want anyone to feel that they have to spend thousands of dollars to start their healing journey. You don't. You can spend a couple $100 and really dig in, and so there's, on my offerings, you'll see that there's different spots there depending on what works. Some people want to do a self study, some people want to do a group, and even private coaching is an option as well. And I also
Yeah.
have a free offer if people are interested, as you would sign up to my list, my love letter email list. But it's the Be Real Soul Connection practices, and it's another way to give you some. So if the game's not for you, or that's cool. These practices are very simple, but they are very profound, and they're helping you to connect inward and make it a practice. And there's also a meditation in there as well. So
I
I sent you
love your
that link, and that's free for people, and it's a really great place to start.
Yeah, and your meditations are amazing. And I've
Thank
had the
you.
pleasure of experiencing it. I've had the pleasure
Thank
of
you.
taking part in your radical forgiveness
Mhm.
and the
Thank
game.
you.
It just was like, you know what? I think it's time to come back because, you know, I was doing it for a while, and then it's been a little bit since I've played it, and I think it's time to come back to it again. Which reminds me, I need to order more of those sheets. So, but I highly,
Yeah, yeah.
it's very
Thank
cool. It's
you.
not, but it's always bang on. Always, always, always. It's
It
very cool,
is, it
and it's
is, and it helps us to trust ourselves, because
right.
we already have that knowing within us. It's just remembering.
Yeah, yeah,
And as we work with the ego, then the ego starts to quieten down, and then we can really start to hear our intuition and start to remember who we truly are. So it's a
yeah,
beautiful way to do that without, work.
yeah. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Thanks so
Lorree.
much.
I'm gonna.
Thank you so much.
I so appreciate it. I'm looking forward to when you come. I'm for those of you in the Ontario area, I'm running a retreat, and Lori's one of the
Mhm.
facilitators there, and I'm so excited. I've been telling
Me
everybody
too.
about it,
Me
and
too.
it's very cool. If you want to learn more about that, feel free to reach out.
Yeah,
But
excited. That
thank
sounds
you. I
amazing.
hope everybody
Thank
got
you.
value from listening to you and all your wisdom,
Mm.
and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great.
Thanks. Oh no, I can never. Sometimes I lose things on here where it's like, anyway, it's all good. All right, bye for now. Oh my God, sometimes I forget where the buttons are on this thing to, work through how to change the screen and bring people on and bring them off. Anyway, thank you everybody for chiming in and listening. Hope you got a lot of value today. I know every time I listen to Lorree, I get so much value from our conversation. So everybody have a great week. And remember, you come first. And if you want a better life, it starts with making a change. So thank you again for chiming in and have a great day. Bye for now.